Now we're going to look at something called a shuffle rhythm. What a shuffle rhythm is used for is blues primarily. It sounds like this. You'll hear it in rock, and you'll even hear it in some country songs and some pop songs as well. What's happening here is we're combining a couple things. We're using downstroke and upstroke strumming as well as some muting with our strum hand. And the way that this is counted is like this. We're still going to use our cycles of 4 that we've talked about, but it's 1, a 2, a 3, a 4, a 1, a 2, a 3, a 4. And just like we talked about before, the 1, 2, 3, and 4 are going to be downstrokes, and the that precedes the numbered strokes is going to be an upstroke. So it goes like this. I'm going to do it without muting, and then we're going to talk about muting here in a minute. I'm just using a G chord, just like before. 1, 2, a 3, a 4, a 1, a 2, a 3, a 4, a 1, a 2, a 3, a 4, a... Here it is with some muting. You can also use your left hand on certain chords to mute out other strings. Let's say we're going to play an A power chord here. So my first finger is going to be on the 5th fret of the low E string. My third finger is going to be on the 7th fret of the 5th string. What I'm doing is I'm taking my index finger and letting it rest over the remaining strings so that they don't ring out, so that you can't hear them. So if I strum, you're going to hear the bottom 2 strings, and the rest of them are going to be muted out. So I'm hitting all 6 strings, and you're only hearing the bottom 2 strings. So I'm playing this shuffle rhythm, and it lets your hand swing free, because if I didn't mute, what would happen is this. I'd get all those other strings ringing out, and it does not sound good. Now if I tried to play just those bottom 2 strings, I have to be kind of like surgically precise with my strum hand, and I'd have to go like this. It's hard to get any kind of rhythm or feel or power if I'm not able to let my strum hand swing free. It also adds a really nice percussive effect, that sound of the pick going through those other strings combined with the strings that are sounding out. Gives it a real cool, powerful, rockin' sound. You'll hear a lot of rock guys and a lot of blues guys do this. Guys like Stevie Ray Vaughan will do the same type of thing. Sometimes he'll actually just play one note and mute out the rest of the strings. And you can hear that percussive sound. So those are some different ways that you can use muting in your fret hand in order to let your right hand, your pick hand, swing free and swing through those strings, but not have all of that extra sound and get a real cool percussive effect. Let's look at an additional chord here. We're going to play something called a 9th chord. There's a diagram in your manual. I'm going to play an E9 chord. Middle finger is going to go on the 5th string, 7th fret. Index finger is going to go on the 6th fret of the 4th string, and I'm going to lay my ring finger down over the notes at the 7th fret on the 3rd, 2nd, and 1st string. So this whole chord looks like this. Additionally, I'm using my middle finger to mute out the low E string. It's touching it. So if I accidentally hit that string, it's not going to sound. So I'm actually strumming through that string, but it's not sounding. This is a common funk and blues chord. I know you've heard it before. What we're going to do now is play a 16th note rhythm using this chord. So like we talked about in the first part of this lesson, we're going to keep our hand going continuously. We're going to go 1 E and 2 E and we're going to accent the 1, 2, 3, and 4 like this. Just like that. Now the cool thing about these funk chords like this E9, this funky E9 chord, is if I continue to move my strum hand in that 16th note rhythm continuously, 1 E and a 2 E and a, if I just release my pressure just a little bit so that the strings are muted and keep this going continuously, I can get some funky sounding stuff happening. Did you see what I did there? I kept this hand going continuously with a 1E and a 2E and I would release my pressure and continue to strum, so it would get that cool percussive clicky sound. Now if I were to play that without continuing the strumming, it would sound like this. Which sounds okay, and you could use it in some instances, but it doesn't sound funky. The funk comes from that continuous 16th note. 2 and a 3 and a 4 and a 2 and a 3 and a 4 and a 1 and a 2 and a 3 and a 4 and a 2 and a 3 and a 4 and a, like that. So you can get different variations just by releasing the pressure, keeping your fingers in contact with the strings, of course, on your fret hand, but by releasing it, you get this cool kind of percussive thing happening. This is something that you'll want to listen for when you're listening to music and listening to other guitar players, and now you'll understand what it is you're hearing. And when you watch people play and you see that hand continuing to move, but you don't necessarily hear notes coming out, you hear that scratchy poppy sound, that's what it is. It's just muting, and it kind of ties things together in a cool sort of way, gives things a cool, funky, percussive feel.